Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. People sharing their stories of their journey. Chapters of their life, segments of their life, traumatic possibilities of events that have happened that have changed the course of their life. Our special guest today is Dr. and Mrs. Arnett from Redlands, California, actually Yucaipa. They're part of the ministry team here at Loma Linda. He has been a professor of dentistry here for many, many years. And they're going to share their journey and what brought them when they found out they had the silver news that you have cancer. We're glad to have you here. I'm going to call you Les and Linda. And we have people from around the world that are watching. And we want to learn a little bit about you and a little bit about your background and learn about your journey. Linda, where are you from?
Originally San Leandro, Northern California, until I married Les 37 years ago.
And San Leandro's where?
It's in the Bay Area, right across the bay from San Francisco.
Okay. And born and raised in that area?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And where are you from, Les?
Well, I'm a native Southern Californian. I was born in L.A. and grew up in San Gabriel Valley.
Okay. And where did you go to school?
I went to college. I went to Occidental College. Then I went to dental school at USC, and ultimately I took my periodontal graduate training here at Loma Linda.
So did you always want to be a dentist?
No, I didn't know for sure what I wanted to do. My dad was a periodontist, and I narrowed things down finally to medicine, dentistry, theology, or business.
Okay, I want to get that again. You narrowed it down to business, medicine, dentistry,
or
theology.
That's right.
All right. Well, I want to learn a little bit more about this theology because that was a molding and shaping influence in your life.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But you finally ended up going to undergraduate at Occidental.
Yes.
And then you took your dental training at
USC.
Mm-hmm. So where was the theology in all of this?
The theology actually preceded it as far as the dental part is concerned. I thought very seriously of going into a pulpit ministry, thinking of maybe going to San Anselmo in San Francisco, and probably is good that I didn't, but I don't know that for sure.
But you've kind of had this deep conviction that pastoral work and ministry.
Yes.
So what was your religious background and religious?
I basically was raised in a Presbyterian church.
In a Presbyterian. What is your background?
I was raised in the Church of Christ.
In the Church of Christ. Well, that's an interesting combination there.
Yes, it is.
We'll get together about how that kind of blended together. So you finished up with your dental school, and then where did you go?
Right out of dental school, I went into the Navy for 2 years.
All right.
I was practicing part-time while I was in the Navy. Everybody knew it. It wasn't anything sneaky. But on alternate weekends, I was practicing in my dad's periodontal practice in Pasadena.
Oh, so where were you stationed then?
Port Hueneme.
All right.
About 50 miles away.
Part of the time you were working in the dental. So what were you doing in the Navy?
In the Navy, I was a dental officer. And interestingly enough, I was doing primarily prosthodontics. In the Navy, I was doing bridges and dentures and things like that, except on the weekends when I was in the periodontal office in Pasadena, so I had to know which hat to have on.
All right. So you get out of the Navy, and what then?
Well, I went into practice with my dad. In those days, you could actually go into a specialty by working on a preceptorship basis with someone else who was already in it.
Which is kind of like an internship?
Yeah, kind of like that. That went until the 31st of December of 1964. If you were in a limited practice before that time, you were ethically a limited practitioner. After that time, you had to have additional educational training. And so I was unemployed for 90 minutes.
Wow.
Got out of the Navy at 12 o'clock, and at 1:30 I saw my first full-time patient in the office in Pasadena.
Wow, not much of a transition there.
Not much at all.
Okay. So you practiced with your dad for how long?
17 years.
For 17 years. And then what happened?
Well, I got involved in Loma Linda before...
During that 17-year period of time?
Yeah, I was still working with my dad. It was in 1964 that I was contacted by Loma Linda. And they said...
1964.
Yes.
That's a few years ago.
That's a few years ago.
Right.
Yes.
So is that your first, outside of 1964, what happened?
I was contacted by Ed Collins in the School of Dentistry, and Ed said, we are looking to bolster our periodontal faculty and start a periodontal graduate program. And he said, are you interested? And I didn't know what he was asking because I hadn't gone officially through a periodontal graduate program. And we ultimately worked it out that I started teaching in '64. In '65, I continued teaching and added the periodontal graduate program to it. Finished that program in 1968. Continued teaching all the way through. I was teaching clinical periodontics to the other graduate students while I was in the perio graduate program.
So you've been a part of Loma Linda for how many years?
Well, we've got 40 getting up to 2004. It's getting close to 40 years.
Unbelievable.
It's getting close to it.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, somewhere along this line, I remember we were visiting here, and you've been married how many years now?
37.
37 years. But somewhere along the line, you had this call to go to
Fuller Seminary.
Theological Seminary,
Right.
and I've taken a few classes.
Right.
In fact, I probably was taking some classes. But tell us about that, because this is all a part of molding and shaping you in the ministry that you've been involved in, and the two of you.
Linda and I are both devout evangelical Christians.
Okay.
And we have worked in churches that we have been in all the way along. And one morning I had been to a Pasadena Dentist United Fund meeting and was driving to the office in Arcadia, and as I passed Sears, the Lord said, I need you. When I got
And this was a very clear message,
Yeah.
audible, just a deep impression and almost a voice.
Yes, and it was a call really to Fuller. We had many friends, many in pastoral positions and the like, and I had been getting drawn closer and closer to Fuller. So it really wasn't any question that it would be to Fuller. So when I got to the office, I went in and asked Linda, who was working in the office with us at that time, would you please come back to my office? And she came back, and with my hands shaking, I said, I've just gotten a call to Fuller Seminary. And she said, okay.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Now, and for our listening audience, because I had to clarify it was a call not to ministry, it was a call to Fuller Theological Seminary. Because you've always been involved in ministry of some aspect or another as a very active Christian. So it's not a matter of whether it's in this aspect, but it's a call to ministry.
Yes.
But you had a call to go to Fuller.
Yeah.
Okay, and take theology. Okay.
That's right.
So did you quit your practice altogether?
Oh, no, I practiced all the way through that. I had, that was at a time that I had taken, I wished I'd taken a leave of absence, but I'd resigned my appointment here at Loma Linda for a period that ended up about 7 years. And I was back in the office, and so I was going to Fuller on 2 days a week basis and still practicing full-time in the office.
And you've been involved in a number of different churches and very, very active. In fact, Linda, you were telling me about a couple of the programs you've been involved in. This what do you call it?
T-Moms.
T-Moms.
I have the joy of being a mentor mom for Trinity Mothers of Munchkins. So they're
Trinity Mothers of Munchkins. And what is that?
They're young moms that have little children. And so every other week we have a time where we watch their children, and we just have a morning together.
So it's a ministry then. It's an aspect of ministry then. That's wonderful. And some of the other activities you've been involved in the church you've been involved in.
Variety of things at other churches in Sierra Madre when they were there. When we were there, I served as moderator of the congregation for 2 or 3 years, which basically is the congregation's representative on every board in the church.
Oh, man.
It's kind of an insanity
Many
position.
hats, that's right.
I was one of the only 2 male members of the deaconesses.
All right. Have you filled in as a pastor before?
Yes.
Have you had services before?
I've preached a couple times.
Okay.
I was the minister of, Family Ministries.
Okay.
That's what, Pastor Family Ministries at a church plant in Yucaipa, just after we moved out here.
Okay. Now, one of the things I remember is you've been traveling back and forth. You moved to this area recently, but for years you traveled back and forth to Loma Linda. And how many miles have you driven since you've been coming to Loma Linda?
Approximately 450,000.
450,000, which astounded me. But you told me there's somebody else that holds the record.
Yeah, he has 650,000.
600, and one of the people that have been full-time employment
Lives at Dana Point and drives up here and back.
every day.
Yeah.
So 450,000. So anyway, things are going well. How many children do you have?
Total 4, 2 from my first marriage and 2 with Linda and myself.
Okay, and where are these children now?
The eldest, 52, is in Vermont as a clinical psychologist. What did we say on RJ, 48?
48.
Okay. He's in mortgage banking and lives in Pasadena. Our elder daughter is 36.
35.
Okay, going to be 36.
Going to be 36. Yeah, in April. That's right.
Okay.
Okay. And she is a special ed teacher in Chula Vista.
Okay.
She and her husband live down there. And our youngest is Eddie. Eddie is 32, and he is the assistant athletic director at Maranatha High School in Pasadena.
Okay, and how many grandchildren?
2.
You have 2. All right, and where are they?
Go ahead.
Richard's in Vermont, Virginia.
Virginia.
Freshman in college.
Okay.
And our granddaughter is 16 in high school, a junior in high school.
Back there?
In Pasadena.
Pasadena, so you're able to see them. Well, that's good. Well, everything's going along well for you. And some time ago, apparently, you must have found out that you had cancer. What happened?
My PSA took a little jump. It went from mid-2s up to 4.2. And at that point, it seemed wise to pursue the issue. There were no physical changes, no symptomatic
Didn't feel
concerns.
anything?
Yeah.
Hadn't been sick before? Do you have any cancer in the family?
My dad had a prostate malignancy.
He had prostate
Yes.
cancer. Okay. Any cancer in your family, Linda?
No.
Yeah.
Well, my father, lung cancer, yes.
He had lung cancer.
Yes.
Okay. But both of you have been in good health
Yes.
all along. And taking care of yourselves, working out, hiking, walking, and doing a number of different things. But for some reason, your PSA jumped up. And so did they decide it's probably better to do a biopsy?
We decided that it didn't make sense not to.
Okay.
So we went ahead and proceeded with the biopsy.
And what did they find out?
They found 1 out of 19 samples that were taken, they found 1 that was positive.
Okay, now for our listening audience, and particularly for the men that are watching on, a biopsy is when they take a sample of the prostate, and it's like a needle in a haystack. The
Exactly.
prostate is about the size of a walnut. It can get a little bit bigger, but it begins at the size of a walnut. So you're taking it in. So the more samples you take, the better the likelihood is if there's something there that you're going to find it. So apparently they took 19 samples.
Yes.
Well, I had 18 one time, and I had 22 at another time. But I hear people getting 5 and 6 samples, and I think, the more aggressive people will take 12, 15, 18.
Yeah.
But they had 19.
19.
So, and it comes back and only in one sample?
One sample.
Just a teeny bit of cancer. A teeny bit of cancer.
Yes.
So how does this hit you?
Well, let's take care of it.
How did it affect you when you find out he's got cancer?
It's something everyone dreads to hear, but we already felt like the Lord had gone before us and prepared the way, so we felt very confident that He was in charge.
Did you know much about prostate cancer other than the fact that your father had it? Did he die from it?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
And
of course, you've been around here for a while, and so did you know much about prostate cancer?
Minimally, very minimally, actually. I'd had friends that had gone through the proton therapy.
Before.
And so I really, without giving it a whole lot of thought, had decided already that if I had a problem with it, I was going to go through the proton therapy if it was possible.
Okay. So you find out you're still practicing and working, and how long ago are we talking about when you were diagnosed?
Just a little over a year ago.
A little over a year ago. I've been telling our patients recently that are coming in that when they're diagnosed, I'll ask them, well, when did you get the good news? And they say, well, what do you mean, good news? I said, well, when were you diagnosed? And he said, well, they'll say, well, it was on December the 12th at 8:45, in the morning, I got this phone call, or the doctor let me know. And I said, well, that's when you got the good news. And they'll say, well, what do you mean good news? And I said, well, you've already had it. You didn't know
That's
it.
right.
Now you know it, and now you can do something about it. So the diagnosis is not a death sentence.
That's right.
I mean, it's a wake-up call. It's time to do something, and there are many options out there. And one of the things that our patients are sharing with us is that sometimes they go and get a second opinion, or they find out that there's just one option. I mean, people tell them, this is what we need to do, but the patients that are coming here, they've discovered there are multiple options, and there are. So you pretty much had your mind made up you're going to come for proton? Okay. So what happened then?
Very rapidly, I got a call from the proton program, and
The fact that you worked here, and the fact that you do have a few connections, it doesn't always help, but it never hurts.
it didn't hurt.
We've had people that have had to wait. We're getting people in now within a couple of week period of time.
Yeah.
But there have been times in the past where it took a couple of months or
Yes.
3 months. But you're diagnosed, the word gets out, and so you get a phone call.
Yeah.
And
we
what-
couldn't take the first 2 appointments that they offered
Oh,
us.
they want to say, come right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
We were
But
just-
you're busy and working.
Well, we were getting ready to go up to Yosemite at Christmas time. We have a cabin there, and we were getting ready to go up, and so we postponed it until just
you get
after we
back.
got back. So it started in early January of last
So
year.
now are you telling me it was around Christmas time when you got the diagnosis?
That's when we got the good news.
That's when you got the news.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
What a nice Christmas present.
Yes.
Okay, so you get the diagnosis. And so then what? I mean, you're not sick, you're not feeling sick, and there's no symptoms.
No.
So how many treatments did you have?
45.
You had 45. So once a day, you're coming in. Now, I mean, do you have to quit work?
No. We set up my appointment, so it was right after work each day.
And you're working all day, every day?
Yes.
Okay. So now, how is this affecting you? I mean, he's got cancer. He's coming in for treatment.
Oh, I'm telling you, only God could take a cancer diagnosis and turn it into a joy-filled journey, and that's what it was.
Oh,
Yes.
say that again. Only
Only
God
God.
can do what?
Can take a cancer diagnosis and turn it to a joy-filled journey.
Wow.
That's very
what
true.
a testimony. So tell us what happened. You start showing up for the treatment.
You want the whole story?
I want the story. That's right. I want our people to hear, because people sometimes when they find out they've got cancer, and prostate cancer is an easily treatable cancer, but not everybody has the same kind of an experience. And the attitude, I talk about when I have our orientation that I want to begin with attitude and I end up with attitude. And you folks had a marvelous relationship with the Lord, and you knew that He was in control of your
yes.
life. And it's sometimes easier to look back on the experience, but what I'm hearing you say, this was a wonderful opportunity that God turned into a blessing for you.
Yeah, and it isn't just that for us. Most of the people that come here for the proton therapy come from long, long distances. We're the exception.
Right.
We didn't have to move out of our home and go away for
Relocate.
2.5 months or so. But the general attitude of all those people, because of the manner in which the whole program is set up here to make man whole, and in the proton program, that's the best place that it is done in this entire university. They come in, and it is referred to as a radiation vacation.
By the patient.
By the patients, yes.
Unbelievable,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
they do. Yeah, and our undergirding philosophy here is to make man whole, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And I think you're right. And in all of the medical center here, that is an undergirding philosophy, but it's demonstrated exceptionally well in the radiation department, particularly with the proton. And well, share with us some of the things that were going on while you're here. You're working, so did you show up for your treatment, then just kind of get back and prepare for the next day, or were you actively involved while you're in? I know. Tell us what happened.
Go ahead, Linda.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Well,
Lynn.
for me, I showed up to the wives support group, and I thought I'll just go once or twice to see how I can support less. And when I got there, I found out I was the only wife that had not had to leave her home. So I thought, aha, this is what the Lord has for me to do. So we began opening up our home. So I had the wives in for lunch.
You're talking about the wives of the
wives,
other patients.
Yes.
You're the only one that's local. I mean, you're here,
Yes.
and you travel, 15, 20 minutes to get here, and people have come from all across the
Yes.
country.
Yes.
So at this wife support group, which I think it was on a Thursday afternoon,
Yes.
you get acquainted with them.
Yes.
And then what happened? So you invited them to your
So
home?
I had them over for Valentine's lunch. Then we had 22 of them over for high tea.
22?
My mother helped me, and we had crafts, and my mother taught them cake decorating lessons. And
All of this while
we played
under
together.
Grand
We
Tribute.
had so much fun.
Really?
Yes.
So did you develop some real close
Oh,
friendships?
lifetime friends. Met
And-
some wonderful people.
Now, this was over a year ago. Have you had any contact with any of them?
Oh, yes. We've been to one of their homes in Colorado. Last week, a couple from Vermont was here.
Jay and May.
Yes. And Jill and Rick have been in our home for their first checkup, and they're coming again in March to stay with
Really?
us. So, yes.
So you developed some lifelong friendships. So now, what were you doing? I mean, you showed up for work, worked every day, apparently, and then you had your treatment. And I know you came to some of our meetings.
Oh, yes. Those are on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
And you do a magnificent job,
Well,
incidentally,
we have fun.
in monitoring
Yes.
those. And that fun really shows. And it's part of making this such a wonderful system. On Tuesday nights, there's a potluck dinner. On Thursday nights, there's a restaurant tour.
And you were taking
And-
part in each of these, or many of them
Yes,
anyway.
the restaurant tour we didn't do,
Yeah.
but all of the others we were involved in to one extent or another, and thoroughly enjoyed doing it. And I was going through every day, working, then coming up and having my treatment, and then Valentine's Day last year came. And on Valentine's Eve, I had a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, which is kind of like a mini stroke.
On February.
Yes.
Of Valentine's.
Valentine's Day, yes.
What
yes,
a nice.
yes.
I mean, we used to think of the heart on Valentine's Day.
I had to go to
But
the
you had to
brain.
go to the second smile.
Yes.
So what happened?
Well, I went into Loma Linda Medical Center. I refer to it at the LLU MC B&B.
B&B.
Yes, and I was there for 2 nights. I felt perfectly fine. I felt like a gold brick. The TIA lasted about 6 minutes, and I was totally back, and I have been totally back since that time.
Never had any other problems since then?
Not with that.
Yeah. Not with
Of course,
that.
I've had pneumonia, whooping cough, and some vertigo all last year. Last year was the year that was.
Really? That's
Yes.
one behind you then.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's been a year. You completed treatment when?
30th of March.
So we're talking about a 1-year anniversary then. All right. And when you came in, your PSA was, what did you say? Jumped up to
4.2.
4.2. And I'm assuming it was a deletion of 3 plus 3.
Yeah.
6.
That's right, it was
All right.
6.
Which is, it was
Yep.
early stage. So a year later, you've probably had a couple of follow-up.
I've had follow-ups. I had one 4 months after completion of treatment, and that was a 1.48. Nice
Wow.
drop. And then I had my one 6 months after that, which is 10 months after treatment, and I am now at a 0.96.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. And everybody gets worried about this PSA. I mean, once you've had the treatment, you know, it may go down, it may bounce around a little bit. The important point is that it doesn't go up. I mean, you move on. You have been
Oh, yes.
treated at the best possible place on planet Earth, and we got many other centers around. But I can tell you, in our listening audience, there's no place like this place. This is the place to be
Amen.
treated. There's people
We agree.
talk about a radiation vacation. The patients talk about the magic of Loma Linda. And believe it or not, you're part of that magic. I mean, it's the patients with each other, but the people that are here and the impact that they make. So tell us some of the things you've been doing now.
In what regard specifically?
Well, you've finished your treatment, you've gone back to work. I know you've referred some people. You
Oh,
brought
yes.
some people out,
Oh, yes.
and we've
Yeah,
had
we
people
do.
going through treatment.
We do that all the time. It's very easy to talk positively about it. And at school, there are individuals who are going to have prostate therapy. And if they're considering the proton, I tend to be the go-to person, I think.
Everybody
there at this
sends them
point.
to, go see Les, go see doctor, huh?
And we've been able to be very supportive of the program. It just is.
Well, looking back on having had cancer, what difference is it making to both of you?
It's given us more contacts for ministry.
What a wonderful response. Linda.
I remember you always tell the people you'll never be the same again, and you aren't. You look at a sunset differently, and every day is a gift, and you want to spend that day glorifying God. And
it's a wonderful ministry opportunity, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
And God brings all kinds of people into our life that we have an opportunity to witness to and to share with and to encourage.
Oh, yes.
And to encourage.
Yes.
And I'm sure in your role that you're interacting with people all the time.
we have two scriptures on our walls at home. In our dining room is from 2 Timothy. It says, God is faithful. Even when we're faithless, he is faithful. And in the guest bathroom, I have a captive audience, and it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. And that is the truth. And I think all the couples that came through our home, they may thought they were in want when they came here, but they realized they were not in want. God provided.
God provided us. Yeah. The psalmist says, today is the day of the Lord. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. Again, I want to thank you for joining us here on LOBN and on Journey of Hope.
Yes.
And for our listening audience, I want to tell you, I'm Lynn Martell, and Les and Linda are marvelous examples of people that have been encountered cancer, but they had a trust in the Lord. And when it came along, it was just kind of a little bump in the road. And they're looking back on their experience as really a wonderful opportunity of ministry and an opportunity to give God the honor and the glory and the praise. And they're like many of the people that have come here and they said, you know, getting cancer is one of the best things that ever happened to me. Changed my life, a new perspective. I place things of value on things that I never had before. And for those of you in the listening audience, some of you this week have received some sobering news. I want you to know that God is the answer. Look to him. He'll open and close doors. If you're confronted with some kind of a medical problem, seek a second opinion. Until next week, I'm Lynn Martell with Journey of Hope. Thank you for joining us. God bless you each one.